Alright, question 11. So same thing, you can try to go through the question again. So basically, this is a table that gives you the participation in sports and physical recreation for different states. Like you have WA, Tasmania, and also Victoria here. Okay, so the data is given in a form where you have the gender, and after that you have each age group. So these are the person that participating. So for example, if let's say we are talking about 71.6%, so which means that they are like around 23.4% of the field that do not participate in sports and physical recreation. So that's the idea how to read this table. Okay, so now determine the values of A and B for the WA data. So in this case, you have A here. Okay, so for this one, I think it's quite straightforward. You are just finding out what's the total value here, right? So one alternative that you can try to do is add that all together, but it will be quite long. Then the other alternative that you can do is you have the total here, right? So you can use the total number to minus off the male. Then after that, you can get female. So which means A, it will be equal to the total 1288.1 and then minus off 663.2. Okay, so the answer here will be equal to 624.9. All right, then after that for B, so B is for this part. So you can see that this is the total number of people that participate in the sports. So which means you already have the male and female. So plus two of them together, then you are able to get your B. So in this case, we have 113.7 and then plus 111.4 will be equal to 225.1. So that will be your answer. Okay, so make sure that although you are given only 1 mark for each of your answer here, right, it's good that you try to write out your working as well. So 1 mark for the first one, 2nd mark for the second one. Okay, so now B, which state, age, or and gender category has the highest rate of participation in sports and physical recreation? So in this case, then you can try to just check out for everything lah. So you have all the percentage, right? So you have 71.6% of those in the age group for 15 to 17 join sports. Then after that, the next one, you are going to use the same interpretation. So if you want to find out the highest, then you try to find out the highest percentage that you have. Lor. So in this case, it's all 60, 70, then yeah, you see that's 181.3. So continue to check out for other. I think that will be the highest. So the highest is here. Okay, so you need to write down, then it will be under Tasmania. Then after that, the male in the group of 25 until 34 category. Okay, so this answer will be the male in the 25 to 34 years category in Tasmania. Okay, so that's the way to do that. Okay, so now see, yeah, basically the 3 marks, 1, 2, 3. And you actually need to got everything correct lah, then to get the 3 marks. Okay, so C, which state had a higher percentage of female than male participating in sport and recreation in the years category of 35 to 44? So we are looking at for the column for 35 to 44. So in this case, then you can see that for this one, male is higher, right? So male is higher, then after that, female is lower. Then for this one, male is higher, then female is lower as well. So the only thing that you have female more than male is for Victoria, because you can see 71.9, then 67.9. So that's why for the state of Victoria, you have the group of people in year category 35 to 44, which is female more than male. So in this case, Victoria. Okay, so 1 mark. Okay, then after that, D, compare and comment on the participation rate in the 55 to 64 years category with those in the younger age. Okay, so same thing, you can just try to find it out like this. Okay, so focus in the part where you want to find. So for example, this is the group that you are looking at it, right? So that's why we are looking at this one. Okay, so what is the one thing or what is the common properties that you will realize when you try to go through with all the group? Okay, so you can try to find it out. Okay, so for example, when you try to look at this thing, okay, so this number, this number, this number, this number, and then this number and this number. Okay, what you can realize here is that because the question want you to compare and comment with those in the younger groups. So you're trying to look at it, compare this value with the previous value. then what you will realize here is that this is the value that is the lowest when you try to compare to all the youngest group. So when you try to go through this is the lowest. Am I right? When you try to go through this is the lowest as well. When you try to go through this, then 55.7 is the lowest also. When you try to go through this, 62.9 is also the lowest. Then after that, when you move on here, okay, this is slightly different. So you can see that you have 59.7 for 45 until 54. So this is not the lowest, but this one is also the lowest. So which means that when you try to compare everything, then you can say that this group has the lowest participation rate in all the, I mean, no matter which gender that you are looking at, and in all the states except the male for the group for 45 to 54 years in the state of Victoria. All right, so that would be your answer. Okay, so try to understand what I meant just now. Yeah, so this group, okay, has the lowest participation rate participation okay participation rates in all, right, except the male in the 45 to 54 years in Victoria. Okay, so that's the idea. So which means that you found out that for each of this number they are the lowest. So except under this age, then this is the lowest, which is the one that we write except just now. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so now we move on to E. Determine the total number of females in Victoria who were surveyed. Okay, so in this thing, then you will need to look at how many people, what is the total number of female in Victoria who participate in sports first. So Victoria female, all right. So Victoria, the total female here is 1449.6. Okay, so this made up a 61.4%. So I hope that you get what I mean, right? So which means that in the state for Victoria, there are 61.4% of female who participate in sports. So this 61.4% is made up from 1449.6 thousand people. So you want to find out what is the total people here. So you can use your previous knowledge in percentage. You know that if let's say this is the value that represents 61.4% and you want to find back the original value, then you need to find out the 100%. Am I right? So that's why in this case, what you will be doing is 1449.6. Okay, or you can try to do it like this. So which means that you have your total number. Okay, after you multiply with the 61.4%, so which means you try to change it to decimal, right? Then you will be able to get 1449.6. I hope it makes sense for you. So which means we have a total number that we doesn't know, but we know that 61%, 61.4% of this total give you a value for 1449.6. So we want to find the total here. So which means when we bring to the back, then it will become divide lah, or you can write 1449.6 multiply by, so it will become 61.4, then 100 above. Okay, so when you solve this, then you'll be able to get 2360.912. So we are going to round it off to only 3 decimal place because this means 1000. So in this case, then we have 2360,912 people. Okay, so female lah. So that's the idea. All right, so how do I know this? Because when you look at the data here, you know all these value represent 1000. So which means after you get the answer, then you should change it to 1000. And you cannot have any decimal point as well because we are referring to the number of people, and that should be a round number, a whole number. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. All right, question 12. So this is a question for time series analysis. So yeah, as mentioned in the announcement, time series analysis is only coming out in our simulation because I think it will be good that you try to see what is the kind of pattern of this question since we just completed this topic, right? But then in your real semester exam, it's only unit 3, so which means bivariate, growth and decay, and after that, graph and network. So time series is not involved. Okay, so yeah, but then we are just going to go through them. Okay, so A, determine the value of A, B, and C given that the value of C, sorry, giving the value of C correct to one decimal place. Okay, so even though the question might not give you the last sentence here, but by looking at the numbers, the value that given in the table, right, then you know that to make it consistent, your C should be having one decimal place as well. Then your A and B should be a whole value to the nearest unit lah, because there's no decimal point as you can see. Okay, so now let's solve for A first. So this is the ice cream sales for the day 13. So you already have the weekly mean, right? So which means all these five value when you plus them together, divide by 5, and that give you an average for 142. So you can try to solve it from there. So which means that 180 plus 220 plus A plus 70 and then plus 150, and we divide by 5 and we get the weekly mean, which is 142. Okay, then from here, then you are able to find out your A will be equal to 90. So you can just use your calculator to solve everything. So I guess this part I am not going to repeat how do you need to do that. Okay, then after that, B is the weekly mean, right? Then this is quite direct. So 5 value plus together, then you divide by 5. So which means B will be equal to 210 plus 230 plus 100 plus 90 plus 160 and then divide by 5. Okay, then from here you can get your B value is 158. Okay, then now move on to C. So C is the percentage of the weekly mean. So after you get an A, then after that you need to divide by the percentage, then you divide by the weekly mean so that you can get the percentage. So that's why C will be equal to, in this case, we know that our A is 90 here, right? So we can write down. So 90 divided by 142 and then multiply by 100%. So from here, then you are able to get 63.4. So remember only one DP because you want to make this consistent, and also the question give you that it's only in one decimal place. Okay, so I'll just write down the answer here as well. So for an easier purpose, later we want to use this value. So 158. Okay, so now we will move on for part 2. So use the this one first. So use the average percentage method to complete the table by calculating the seasonal index. Okay, so in this case, so depends on you lah, whether you want to use like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can use 5 to minus off all this value, or alternatively, you can try to calculate it by using the average percentage method. Alright, so which means to find out all this is for Wednesday. So which means Wednesday, then you have 63.3, 63 point. So this value 63.3, and then after that plus the next one, which is going to be 60.8. Then after that, the last one here, you have 63.4. So plus them all together, divide by 3, then you are able to get the same answer as well. But like what I say, I will always encourage you, maybe you can try to do it in a form where you try to use minus, because okay, if let's say this C isn't a number that you find it out yourself, then it's safe if let's say you want to use average percentage method. But then there is a risk here because the C is the value that you find yourself. So you imagine if let's say your C is wrong, then which means that if you are using average percentage method, then you will get a wrong answer as well. So the other thing that you can try to do is, so you know that you have 5 seasonal index, so when you add them up together, it should give you 5. So you can use 5 minus 1.294 minus 1.52 minus 0.568 minus 1.028, and that'll give you the same answer as well. Okay, so that's the answer here. So which is going to give you 0.590. Okay, so if you are using the average percentage method, then you will be getting an answer for 0.625. Okay, so both are accepted. So the difference here is because of there are some value that is given in the question, they already round it off. So no matter you are using this one or you are using, if you use 5 to minus all this value, then you get the later answer. If you use the average percentage, like what I said just now, this 3 value plus and then divide by 3, then you are able to get 62.5. Okay, so both are accepted. So they are both okay. So depends on which approach that you want to use. Okay, so 2, use the seasonal index to determine the deseasonalized number of ice cream sales for Tuesday for week 3 correct to the nearest 10. Okay, so Tuesday for week 3, so you can see that the sales here is 220. So the seasonal index for Tuesday is 1.52. So which means in this case, the deseasonalized value will be equal to 220 divided by 1.52. Okay, then from there you can get 1220 divided by 1.52 and you can get 144.74. Okay, then the question one is to correct to the nearest 10. Then after that you need to do 140. Okay, so that's the nearest 10. So because this is not 5, right? So yeah, that's why you can't round it to 150. The nearest one should be 140. Okay. So C, the equation of the least square line used to forecast the deseasonalized number of the ice cream sales is given by this equation. So describe the trend. Okay, so when we talk about the trend, we are looking at the gradient, and you need to write whether it's increasing over the time or decreasing over the time. So in this case, you can see that the gradient here is negative. So that's why the trend here is the number of ice cream sales decreasing over the time. Okay, so number of ice cream sales decreasing decreases over the time. All right, so that's the idea. Okay, now part two. So predict the actual number of ice cream sales for the Friday for week 4. Okay, so you can see that until here is 15. So if we are talking a Friday for week 4, then it will be 20. So which means that we are going to substitute our day number to be 20 into the equation that is given. So the deseasonalized value, so you can just write deseasonalized. Okay, the deseasonalized value will be equal to negative 1.695 multiply 20 plus 161.16. Okay, so by having the calculation, then you will be able to get an answer for 127.26. Okay, so after you got this, remember every time when you are doing prediction for time series data, then you need to multiply the seasonal index because the seasonalized value is the one that you have removed their seasonal effect. So that's why the actual value here, it will be equal to 127.26 minus the corresponding seasonal index, which is for Friday. So for Friday in this case is 1.028. So for this number, multiply 1.028. And remember, although we are talking about the number of ice cream sale, but you are using this number to multiply by the seasonal effect later. So that's why don't round it off here. You only round it off after you get your last answer. So you get your answer, multiply 1.028 and you get 130.82. Okay, then from here, then we are talking about number of ice cream, then you know that your answer is supposed to be a round whole number. So that's why in this case, either you try to round it off to 131 or you are writing 130, that's fine as well. So both are accepted in this marking scheme. Okay, so that's this question for time series data. So I hope that you can get the idea of it. So now next question. All right, 13. So this is a question regarding the crocodile population. So it's dropping by 7.5% each year. So the current population is starting from 200. Then after that, there is a project that like 20 of the crocodiles are introduced to the river for each of the year. So you can see that this population can be modeled with a first order linear recurrence by given this. So the first A1, the question one is to interpret the coefficient of 0.925. So which means in this case, then you can see that the crocodile population is dropping by 7.5. So this is how you get like 1 or 100% to minus 7.5. Then from there, you can get the 92.5. So when you try to change it to decimal, then you get 0.925. So which means what is the meaning of the 0.925 here? It actually tell you that 92.5 of the crocodile okay remains in the river for each year. So that's the idea because 7.5 dropping, right? I mean, we doesn't know whether it's dead or it's living or what lah. But the idea here is we know that you only left with 92.5% in the river for each of the year. Okay, so that's the way that how you interpret it. Okay, so that's the idea. So basically, you are just telling the people like what is the meaning of the 0.925 here. Okay, to state the value of B, so as you can see, so 7.5 is dropping, right? So which means that the population now you're left with 92.5%, which you multiply 0.925. So plus B, which means it's a crocodile that you are trying to introduce to the river each year. So in this case, then you can see that Tn is for the beginning of the nth year. So which means for each year, 20 is added. So which means the B here is equal to 20 lah. So just understand from the question, then you'll be able to do that. Okay, so now next part, graph the number of the crocodiles in the river for every 5-year period commencing at n equals to 5 up to the 30th year in the axis below. Okay, so for this thing, you might need to use your calculator, try to find out the value for every 5-year period. Then after that, you try to graph that in. Okay, so let's look at our calculator. Alright, so let's generate the sequence that we have by just typing in the first order recurrence relation equation that we have. So menu, data, generate the sequence. Okay, so in this case 0.925. So remember in our calculator you are given un, right? So that's why your term here you should change it to u then n minus 1. Okay, then after that plus b plus 20 just now. So the initial term you are given t1 is 200. Okay, then you are able to find the whole thing. So of course you can try to use to check whether your answer here is correct or not by checking the first 2 points. So you can see that the first one is 200, then when you move on to 5, so the fifth year is 217.86. So it's around 218. So you can see this is a number that's very near to 220, then you know that your answer here is correct. Okay. So now let's try to check for the next 5 year, which means the 10th term. So in this case, the 10th one is 233. So we can try to imagine it's like 234. So 234, it will be somewhere 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 4. Okay, somewhere here. Right, then you move on the same thing for 15. So the 15 value here, then you have 244. So 244, 15. So 240, 250 is here. So 244 is somewhere here. Okay, then we move on for the next one. So for the 20th term, so we have 252. So 252, 25, and then 25 slightly higher. Okay, then when we move on to the last one, we have the 25th term. 25th is 256, so 25, 25, 25, 256 here. Okay, then the last one, we have the 30th. So we have around 260. Okay, then the last one here is 260. Alright, so that will be the graph that you get. So if you correctly plotted for at least 2 points, then you get 1 mark. So all correct, then you get the second marks. Alright, so that's it for B. So for C, using your graph, comment on how the population of crocodile is changing over the time. So you can try to check it out like here lah. So you can see that this population is actually increasing, but then the rate that they are increasing is actually decreasing. I hope you get what I mean. So which means in this case, right, let me try to use the other color. Okay, so you can definitely see that from this point, right, it's increasing like this much. Then after that, increasing like this much. Then after that, increasing only this much, then become lesser, lesser. Then after that, even here, only increase like this much. So you can see that it's increasing, but the rate that they are increasing is actually become smaller and smaller. And eventually, when you try to look at your calculator, right, when you keep on to scrolling until the next part, then you will see that you will actually reach like a steady state after that. So you can see that the thing that increasing is like just a bit and it's actually approaching to 266 already. Okay, so that's why in this question here, how are you going to describe the change in the population? Then you can try to talk about is increasing with a decreasing rate. Okay, so let me try to write it. Alright, so the population of crocodile, or if let's say you want to save some of your time, right? Then you can just say that the population is increasing with a decreasing rate. Okay. Alright, and in this part, you are not able to see whether it stays stable or not lah, because we cannot continue, right? But the thing that you are trying to see is that is increasing with a decreasing rate. If let's say you want to talk about it like even, so increasing will give you 1, decreasing rate will give you 1. Or you can try to write is increasing with a decreasing rate and the graph become flattened. So you can see that the increase is like flatten up the curve lah. Okay. but when you're writing down, this is more than enough already. Okay, so to the nearest whole number, what is the long-term effect on the crocodile population? Okay, so for this thing, then you can check out in your calculator just now. What we have see is that you can see that all this value will be like keep on increasing, but then the value that you see will be almost like 267 only. Okay, so in this case, then you can write down the population of the crocodile. The crocodile population will reach a long-term steady state. Will reach a long-term steady state, okay, at approximately 267. So that's the idea about how you do that. Okay. So to make sure that because sometimes the question doesn't really need you to do that, but sometimes they need. So that's why it will be good that you can write down some of the working law. For example, you already know that in this case you are given like the TN thing, right? Then you can change it to x equals to 0.925x plus 20. Okay, so when you solve this, then you are able to get x equals to 267, and that tells you that your answer for your long-term steady state here. Alright, so for this question, the marking key requires you to do this, but sometimes the question 2 marks will be given like long-term steady state and approximately 267. So to avoid the mistake where you are not writing down something, then you are deducting your marks are deducted, then just write down everything that you know that you need to do so that you can get the answer lah. Alright, so the first equation, then the solving part, you can no need to write, you can just use your calculator to get the answer. Then until the last part, then after that, write in a sentence. Okay, so which means this thing should be in front. Alright, so that's the part for this question. Now let's look at next one. Okay, question 14. So this is a table that given the age versus the median height of the girls at various times. So which means that for girls at the 0 months, then you have the median height of 49.1. So 3 months, then you have 49.8 and so on. Okay, so this is a predicted height, which means that after you find out the regression equation, then after you substitute, then this is the value that you get lah. Then after that, residual, the actual value minus the predicted value. Okay, so A1, determine the equation for the least square line for predicting the median length from a girl's age. Okay, so which means in this case, we are going to do bivariate data analysis by using our calculator. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward this. So same thing. This is the part that you should be able to do it by yourself already. Okay, so you should be able to get this value for your gradient and then this for your y-intercept. So for this case, so since the question didn't give you the abbreviation for this thing, which means it's not given like A for H then length for L like that. So in this case, then we are just going to use y equals to mx plus c to make it easier. So in this case, we have y equals to, let's make it 3 decimal point. So y equals to 0.942x and then plus 58.159. Yeah, sorry for the noise for the vehicle outside. Okay, so yeah, that's the value that you get. So remember to check it out. Then after that, when you move on to 2, so use the equation in A1 to determine the predicted median lengths for A and B in the above table. Okay, so which means A is the predicted length for 27. So which means what happened here is later I'm going to write down the answer here, but that's basically what you need to do. So just substitute the x value that's given. So 0.942 and then multiply by 88.3 and then plus 58.159. Okay, so your answer here, to be consistent to others value in the table here, you should use 1 decimal point. So the A here, you will be given, you will get 83.6. Okay, then the next one for B, the median, oops, I did some mistake here, sorry for that. Yeah, we should substitute the age, not the Yeah, okay, we substitute the age so that you find out the median length. Okay, then after that for B, then it's going to be 0.942. Then substitute the age here, which is 48 months. Then after that plus 58 plus 159. Okay, so in this case, you'll be able to get your answer correct to one decimal place, which will be given 103.4. Alright, so now number three. So what increase in the median length can be expected for each additional year? So this question is about the same with what we meant by gradient, but there's some tricky point in this question where you can see, right, by looking at what we have here, the unit for the age is actually in terms of in the unit for months. Then after that, the median length is cm. So which means if we were to interpret the gradient here, right, then which means that for every additional months in the age, the median length of the girl will increase by 0.942 cm. So that is for every additional month. So you can imagine if let's say for every additional month, your median length increase this much of amount. So how many increase, what is the increase in the median length for every additional year? So we know that if every 1 month you increase 0.942, then which means each additional year, you will add up 12 times of this. Am I right? Because for the year, 1 year, you have 12 months. So which means in this case, what you need to do is the gradient 0.942, and you are going to multiply the 12 months. Okay, so in this case, you can try to round it off or you don't round it off, is totally fine. So if you want to keep the answer in three decimal place, then it will be 11.304 cm. So for every year, the median length for the girl will increase by 11.304 cm. Okay, so that's the idea. So make sure that you try to understand the question and answer accordingly. Okay, so for given that the correlation coefficient is 0.97, describe the association between the age and the median length. Okay, so by looking at this question, because you are not given your scatter plot, right? So that's why if let's say you could not actually look at the shape of the scatter plot, so we don't talk about the linear form. So in this case, you are just writing down the direction and the strength. So in this case, 0.97, you know that is positive, and then the value 0.97, which is very close to 1, then it will give you a strong correlation. So that's why in this case is positive and strong. Alright, okay, so now we move on to part 5. So what percentage of the variation in the median length can be explained by the variation in the age? So as long as you see the words variation, then you know that it's going to be related to coefficient of determination. So you can try to look at the bivariate data analysis from your calculator just now. Then from there, you try to find your R-square, which is the coefficient of determination. So R-square is 0.9397. So when we try to round it off, or we try to change it to percentage in this case, maybe you can try to write it out first. So R square is equals to 0.9394. Am I right? 9397. Okay. So that's why the number of percentage that can be explained is going to be 93.97. Alright, so that's the way. So no need to copy the everything because you want to spend more time to actually think about the question rather than using it to copy down the full sentence, right? Okay, so that's the part 5. Okay, B1, determine the residuals C and D in the table. So you have C and D here. So C and also D. Okay, so since you already have the value for B, then which means that we are not going to repeat to calculate the whole thing again. So you can straight away use this value that you have. So yeah, because your residual is following this, then you only do one decimal point, right? So that's totally fine. So your B is 103.4. So which means how are you going to get your C is by the actual value 102.7. 102.7, then minus of 103.4. So from here, then you can get negative 0.7. So same thing goes for D. So the actual value is 109.4, then minus of 114.7. So in this case, then you can get, let me write down the working. Okay, so from here, then you'll be able to get negative 5.3. Alright, so 2, hence complete the scatter graph of the residual against the age on the axis below by plotting the last 4 residual value. Okay, so you are just using the residual value that you have just now, then try to plot them in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, you already have the first 3 points already, so starting from here. So when it is 21, oh, you have 1, 2, 3 until, okay, you have 4 points in front. Okay, so you only started from 27. So when the age is 27, the residual is 4.7. So 27 is here, then 4.7 is somewhere near to 5. All right, then after that, for the next one is going to be the age is 42, then the residual is 1.3. So 42 and then 1.3, slightly higher than 1. Okay, then the next one we have 48, which is the C answer just now. So 48 is negative 0.7. So 48 negative 0.7. So it will be somewhere here. Okay, so the last one is for 60. So for the 60 is going to be our D, which is negative 5.3. So negative 5.3. So going down slightly. Okay, so this is the full residual that you are having. So part 3, use the residual plot to access the appropriateness of fitting a linear model to the data. So you can try to see that that's like negative, then positive, then negative. So obviously this is like a curve lah. So that's why in this case, it is not appropriate. So it is not appropriate to fit a linear model. It is not appropriate to fit a linear model. Okay, then you need to justify, right? So as there is a pattern shown in the residual plot. Shown in the residual plot. Alright, so that's the answer for 3. Okay, so that's it for this question. Now let's look at the last question. Okay, last question. An express bus service runs between 7 adjacent shopping centers in the city, and below is an adjacency matrix for the 7 shopping center A to J. So in this case, you have shopping center A, B, C, D, F, G, the same thing for this one lah. So you know from A to A, from B, from A to A, from A to B, from A to C, from A to D, and so on. Okay, so this is from, this is to. Then after that, A, draw the network diagram associated with the adjacency matrix, assuming that the arcs here are undirected. Okay, so in this case, they already give you the arcs are undirected. Then the other thing that you can try to check is whether they are symmetrical or not lah. So in this case, the leading diagonal in the middle, right? So that's why I can see 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 1 1. So when you check out for everything, you'll realize that everything is symmetrical. So that's why in this case, you know that your graph should be a non-directed one. Okay, so A, let's try to draw it. So let's start from 1. So 1, A, so there's no loop lah. You can see all the leading diagonal here is 0. So from A, you have a walk of stage 1 to go to B, E, and also G. So you can just look it like this. So B, A connected to B, E, and also G. So remember to use your ruler, yeah. So yeah, I can't do it here, but then yeah. Okay, so to make it like much more nicer. B, E, and also G. Okay, then the next one, let's look at B. So from B, you are reachable to A, C, D, and E. A, C, D, and E. So A, C, D, and also E. Okay, so now let's check for the next one. So for C, it's adjacent to B, D, and also F. B, B, D, and also one more is F. After that, the next one, look at D. So D is adjacent to B, C. So D is adjacent to B and C. So E is adjacent to A and B. So E is adjacent to A and B, that's right. So F is adjacent to C and also G. So F is adjacent to C and also G. Then after that, last but not least, so G is adjacent to A and also to F. So A and also F. Okay, so basically you got everything here. Alright, so that's your answer for A. So yeah, if let's say you have all the ages correct, then you get all the 3 marks. If you get at least 3 correct, then you get 1 mark. Then if you get at least six correct, then you can get 2 marks. Okay, so this is how the marking key giving you the marks. Okay, so now part B. The buses only run between the adjacent shopping center. So however, a passenger can buy a multi-stage ticket at any shopping center. a one stage ticket means a passenger can travel from one shopping center to the other adjacent shopping center. So for example, when you have A to B, A to E, then it's like one way lah. So if let's say a two stage, then you will go to like A to B and then B to A. Then after that, one way is A, B, C. Because I mean, you can see, right, return meaning that you go to B, then you go back to shopping center A. So one way here is like A, B, C lah. Okay. So what feature on the adjacency matrix tell us that the buses run in both direction between the adjacency shopping center? Okay, so you can try to look at it. This is the thing that I mentioned just now lah. So run in both direction, which means that it's a two-way thing. So how are you going to make sure that it's two-way thing? Then your graph must be a non-directed graph. If let's say you have a direction, right, then which means that the bus only can goes from this direction from D to B. So you cannot go back from B to D. But then because we are not putting any direction, in this case, it's a non-directed graph. So that's why we know that the bus can go both ways. But what is the feature of the adjacency matrix that tell you that? It's the one that I mentioned just now. So which means that by looking at the adjacency matrix, if let's say the matrix is symmetrical about the leading diagonal, then you know that it's a non-directed graph. So that's why the bus runs in both directions. Okay, so that's the idea. So the 2 marks here. So make sure that you are writing down the word symmetrical. Then after that, the second thing is you are referring the symmetrical at the leading diagonal. Okay, so the matrix is symmetrical about the leading diagonal. Alright, so that's the part 1. Okay, then after that, we'll move on to 2. So how many different one stage journeys are available from shopping center B? So there are 2 ways that you can try to do that. So if you ask me what is the safest way, then of course using the adjacency matrix that's given, because when you try to use this, then this is the thing that given by the question, right? Because the other alternative is you can try to look at your picture, but you have some risk here is that if let's say your picture here, the diagram here is wrong, then which means it will lead to your answer in B2 also wrong. So that's why it's good that you try to refer to what is given in the question. So you can see that from B, you can go to A, you can also go to C, you can also go to D, and you can also go to E. So that's why 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 different one-stage journeys are available from the shopping center B. So that's why the answer is 4. So the other alternative you can check from the diagram. So you can see from B, so one stage walk, you can go to C, you can go to D, you can go to E, you can go to A, which is exactly the same information that we get in the adjacency matrix just now. Okay, so that's 4. Okay, the last one, list all the different two-stage one-way journeys available from shopping center B. Okay, so this question you might be very mindful. So in this case, we are talking about one-way journey. So which means that we are not taking into the consideration when you go back to A. Because when you go back to, sorry, this is B, we are not taking into the consideration for the case where you are going back to B, because that is considered as a return journey, that is not one-way journey. So it means that we are going to find out what is the two-stage journey that allows you to reach other shopping center from B. Okay, so something that you can try to do is you can straight away get it from your diagram, then after that use your calculator to check lah. So something that will be helpful is you try to look at it. This is your B, right? So you can try out different alternative. So I'm going to use different color to draw here. So this is your starting point, right? Okay. So which means the first one that let's try to do it one by one. Let's talk about A first. Okay. So do you have any two-stage walk that allows you to reach A? You have, right? You can go to B, E, and also A. So which means this is the first two-stage walk that you have. After that, let's look at B. We are not looking at anything go back to itself, right? Then now we're looking at C. So we cannot take BC because that only gives us a length of 1. So, but you can see that we can pass through D, then go to C. So that's why BDC is the other one. So now then there's no other route that can give you like that can give you two stage and reach C, right? Then now we can look at the next one, which is the D here. So same thing, you cannot take BD, then the other alternative is only CD. So that's why BCD, this is the other one. Okay, so after you check for D, then you can check for E. So for E, you cannot take BE, so the only thing that is BAE. So you cannot go from other way because that's more than two stage. So that's why BAE is the next one. Then now check for F, so you can go BCF as well. Okay, and you cannot go AGF, right? Because like this, you will take 3 stage. So in this case, then the last one is BAG log. So that's why you can see there are 6. Alright, so these are basically the 6 number in the 6 groups that you should put in your answer. So BAE, comma, BCD, comma, BDC, comma, BAE, comma, and the rest. Alright, so if let's say you have extra time in your in your exams, then what you can try to do is use your calculator, do M square and check it. Okay. So why in this case I'll try to go for this method rather than check your answer first, because the metrics that you need to key in is like quite a lot. Okay. But something, it will be good that you can try to check last. So which means in this case you should be able to get a total of 6 after we try to removing the loop here. Okay, so yeah, let's try to do it with calculator just for a quick revision that for you. Okay, so now here, I'll add in a new page and add in a calculator. All right, so to add in a matrix, so menu, matrix, and then create. So a normal matrix. So in this case, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's 7, 7. Okay, so let's key in all the value that you have. So 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. Next row, B, 1, 0, 0, 1, sorry, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. Next one, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. Okay, then D, okay, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. Next one, E, 1, 1, 4, 0. Okay, F 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, last one, 1, oops, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Okay, so remember to denote this. In this case, if let's say you already know that this is the end of the question and you are not finding any other thing else, you can straight away square it out if you want. Okay, if not, then you need to denote the thing. I still remember how to do that. So for example, A, then press Control, then the dot equal to. So you try to assign the variable. So if let's say in this case you are only using it for one function, then what you can try to do is straight away square it out. That's totally fine. Okay, so after you enter, then you check log. So for the B, so you can see that from B, okay, that is one route allows you to reach shopping center A by using a two-stage walk. So that's why when you check your answer, then you know that's correct. Because by looking at this, you can see we have one BEA. So that's the one here. After that, when you move on, we are removing this 4, right? Because for this one, it's a case where B go back to B. So this is a return journey already. But in this case, we are talking about one-way journey only. So we eliminate this 4. Then we move on to the next one. B to C also got one route. So that's why we got B, D, C. Then B to D also 1, so that's why we got B, C, D. So 1, 1, 1 that reach E, F, and G. So in total, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your answer is correct. Okay, so this is how you check your answer. All right, so that's the end for the simulation paper. If you've got any question, feel free to ask me in the consultation room. Then, yeah, all the best for your exams. Remember to do all the necessary revision. You can try out all the other past paper as well. So all the best. I'll see you next week during your exams. All right, okay, bye. Thank you.